decks. You can build red-white ramp in some way. You know, there are decks out there that are involving just huge creatures got out as quickly as possible, right across the color suite.
And at least the last version of the Magic Online Cube that we had supported colorless ramp artifacts, mainly like Palladium Mirror, things like Thran Dynamo,
Mind Stone,
Grim Monolith. There was a Mind Stone in there.
Yeah.
Worn Power Stone. There was a lot of options for to play non-green ramp decks. But at the same time, there were also a lot for ramp decks.
He's down to 3 seconds.
He has not picked.
Is he going to be back? Is he going to be back?
No, he takes Putrid Imp. Really, probably the worst possible card for his deck.
Go Watsy. Go Watsy. Fantastic.
All right. So Conley,
who's moved
is
into
back
black
and just
red.
realized that he's picked up a Putrid Imp. He's looking right at Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. It's one of the best cards in the cube, power level wise, and like we were just mentioning, this cube does have the ability to power it out. Now it looks like he's looking at a Goblin Welder here because he's Conley Woods and he likes to just do crazy things like this.
Sure.
But you know, one of the things that you really want in a Wildfire deck are artifact ramp sources, because when you blow up your lands, you can get a head start by still having mana.
Yeah.
It does look like he's going to go for the
across to Kozilek.
For the Kozilek. And I think that that's probably correct here, just in that the ramp targets, there's a few premium ones, and Kozilek is one of them. Now, I think that Ulamog's better, but you're not going to be too worried about a Kozilek either.
So here we go with Powder Keg, Tombstalker. He's very quickly looked at Kodama's Reach. Again, we talked about ramp. Although he's taken Wildfire, he's not currently interested in Siege Gang, or strangely, Orcish Lumberjack.
You know, Orcish Lumberjack definitely deserves a nod here, Rich. That card can ramp you faster than almost any other card around, and he's even in the appropriate colors. But I think he wants non-creature sources of ramp so that when he does Wildfire, he still has a board.
Sure.
Another card he could look at here is Heartbeat of Spring, but that one is really risky because you play it on your turn, and then your opponent gets to untap and just have the world at their fingertips.
Yeah. That was a massive card at Pro Tour Philadelphia 2005.
I think you're the only person I know that would just know that.
Yeah, I was one of the people who played Mono Black Aggro at Pro Tour Philadelphia 2005. That's how I know Heartbeat of Spring was good.
Massive card for you.
Nah, massive card for my opponents. So we've got Asperia coming out of Return to Ravnica. Lion's Eye Diamond, plenty of land going on. We watched Reduke Cube Draft at the Players' Championship.
We did.
And there was lots of discussion about fixing there. Conley here at pack 6, no sense of land yet, but now it looks like he is going to take.
Yeah, this pack is just very weak for Conley. There's not a lot for him here. He could consider the Goblin Ruin Blaster, you know, as a way to keep. You know, he does love him some land death, as he calls it.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's going to kind of play it safe and take the Wildwood.
Stirring Wildwood, yep. That goes in. There's a Johnny Caller of the Pride.
There's some powerful cards in this pack. There's a Terminus. Yeah, and he instantly clicks that. I think that's the first one that I'm looking at as well. Johnny, it looks like Conley's going to adjust it. Thank you, Conley. What a guy. It's funny because, you know, we're watching his screen, but I keep thinking that I can change things on it, but I can't.
Really can't. So were you like pounding on something? Don't pick the Putrid Imp.
Yeah.
For that other pick.
But anyway, I think Terminus is a good pick here. It's the most powerful card in the pack. There's also some solid stuff with Innocent Blood. Yeah, there's just a lot of playables. The Johnny Caller of the Pride's a good in certain decks. All right, now we see Conley has sadly moved his Putrid Imp over to the sideboard.
Oh, bless.
And he's going to pick a Cloud Thresher here, it looks like.
Oh, so he's not going for a blue card so that he's got one of everything.
Oh, he just switched over to Sneak Attack now. You know, the idea of sneak attacking a Kozilek is pretty tempting.
Yes.
And I think that must be what he's thinking here. Yeah, Conley, never one afraid to brew, even with his reputation on the line here at the Community Cup.
Yeah. Well, I think that's half the point, isn't it? I mean, where else would you rather brew than at the Community Cup?
That's a fair point. All right, so he does take Sneak Attack. Looking at the pack, this is the pack that he opened. And
still Boggart Ram going in there.
this
Bayou
just
if he wants to.
I think the Beast Within or the Bayou is probably the two cards he's going to look at. He might even look at Rite of Ruin. That card is a little bit narrow, but
and a little bit 7.
But it's expensive, but it actually can do things similar to what he's doing. I think he's going to take Beast. Yeah, he's going to look at the Beast Within here.
We'll obviously fill you in with how the pods are set up and who the community are battling today here in Cube as we head on. Very quickly, he looks at Cataclysm. Coming back round. No love for Gerard on the first go-round here. So we'll see how this pans out, and we're planning to, if we can make the technology work, Marshall, we're going to head to other drafters, aren't we? We're not just going to stick with Conley through the whole draft.
We are. We have a couple of people lined up here who are known to draft very, very spicy cube decks, and we're going to take a look at them after this pack. Now, the Begarden Hellkite did wheel for Conley here, so, you know, if he can pick up that ramp, he's going to need quite a bit of it, but he's in a position where he can play some very, very powerful things.
And there's the room. There you just see what they're all doing.
Look at Conley running around.
He's like, take this,
and you see
take
him
this,
come back
Jesse.
to his, see, this gives you a great view on how hectic it is for Conley and how much his attention is being diverted.
Yeah, on the far right, you've got John Laux. The community
he won't need any help.
Yeah, the community are on the inside of the quartet, and then the Watsy teams are on the outside.
And we see Conley jump right back in, and he's going to take his heartbeat as spring. That was a great shot to show what's actually happening in the other room there. Now, Rich and I are sequestered elsewhere so that we can yell and scream at the camera.
But the good news is we're sufficiently nearby that when we're mocking them derisively, they should be able to hear some of
like
that.
If we laugh loud enough, they could probably hear us.
I think we're with a shout with that,
yeah. I think that's fine.
So,
all right, so this is going to be the last one. So I think we should switch over now to our next person.
Okay, so this is still Conley having a look at his next pack, but let's see if we can head somewhere else. So, hi there, Marshall's looking at his computer to take us to somewhere else. So, what the place we're planning on going is to one of the Watsy team members, and this time we're going to see if we can take a look at one. Let's see, where are we going to go?
We're going to go to Billy Moreno, and we have him up here, and he's looking at his first pick, and he's got 45 seconds, so we're okay here. And let's look at where he's at right now.
Deranged
He's got a lot of green, Old Man Seagate Oracles, so he's blue-green, probably looking to ramp himself, maybe just value. I think the Phyrexian Metamorph stands out. If he wants a lot of mana, the Avacyn's Pilgrim's a choice. But, Eternal Witness as well is a great card. It looks like he's selected the Metamorph. I don't blame him there.
Okay, and just to confirm, Billy is in the same pod as Conley. So if you're thinking, hey, I've seen some of those cards going around the table. Yes, you have. That Loxodon Smiter, for example, sitting in Billy's deck. That's where that ended up. And he took the Bayou.
I just figured out what Billy's doing.
Okay.
Look at the 4-drop slot. That is a birthing pod hiding behind that.
That is a
Vigilante.
birthing pod, yes.
Yeah, so I think that we have a birthing pod deck here, which explains again the Phyrexian Metamorph is a great card in birthing pod.
Okay.
Ooh, so is Solemn Simulacrum, but a Cryptic Command seems to have caught Billy's eye, being one of the most powerful instants ever printed, and also in the cube. You can see why. All right, he's going to sort by color, it looks
going
like.
There. Yeah, just to get a feel of where he is, and I think that Ingot Chewer may be moving across to sideboard possibly.
Yeah, and maybe the. All right, so he moved the Smiter out. It looks like he's not planning on having any white mana available. He's got 30 seconds left on this pick. I think he's going to take the Cryptic, but the other cards that stand out are Solemn Simulacrum and Rashadan Port. Oh, you know, if he is truly a birthing pod deck, Solemn is a very strong value spell for that deck. But it's tough to pass a Cryptic, and Port is also quite strong. But I think he's actually going to take the Solemn.
Oh, back he goes.
He goes back over to Cryptic.
Solemn Simulacrum, Cryptic Command.
All right, so
Go on,
the
Billy,
last
make the right pick.
He did take Cryptic, which I think is the right pick. Do you think so, too?
Yeah, good boy. We always like a bit of blue counterspell action. Followed
Speaking
up,
of blue.
Hello.
2 5-mana blue spells. Now, we see that Billy has about a minute left to make this pick, and he instantly has clicked Tameo the Moon Sage. Tidings, a strong card for sure, but he definitely wants to pick up Tameo here. Some other good cards in the pack. There's a Sulphur Falls, which it looks like he might want. A Bloodstained Mire. It can get his Bayou if he needs it. There's also Channel in this pack, which is one of the strongest cards in the cube. If this card gets to Conley, it could get very ugly for everybody else. Remember, he's got Kozilek. Just boom, turn 2 Kozilek, go. Draw 4. Discard.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a...
Note to Rashad, might want to start on Conley when it comes to it, if he gets the channel.
Yeah, we'll try to find out if Conley's received the channel.
But meanwhile, we have the round 1 pairings in front of us. We're not going to tell you, but they're very good.
There's an interesting tidbit that we just noticed for sure.
Yeah.
All right, another good pack. There's a Moloku, the Cloud Mirror, and that Moloku is awesome. I think it gets overlooked in this cube.
And you see that Vendilion click?
I do.
It has an enters the battlefield trigger.
It does indeed.
Yeah,
So another
wow.
birthing pod target. Also just a value spell. One of my favorite cards ever printed for at least to play. Desertion is quite strong, although it's not quite a treachery, which is also in the cube. At least it was in the last version. Orin Viper's playable but unexciting. I actually like Moloku here. I think Billy's going to take Vendilion Click, though. It's a little bit more powerful for his deck.
So we're closing in on
looks
pick
like
time.
Billy agrees with me on this one. He's going to go for Moloku as well.
Moloku. Just outstanding. So now the only blue card here is into the Royal. If he goes green-black, he gets a nice sweeper with Pernicious Deed. You got Woodfall Primus there. Mystic Snake as a hard counter.
Yep. He actually has a lot of options. Woodfall Primus is one of the better high-end spells to play. In green, Pernicious Deed is an absolutely critical sweeper, and he already has a Bayou to fix with it. Into the Royal's playable, but perhaps not super
Looks like
exciting.
he's going straight, honest to God, 2 mana, Farseek, find what I need, moving parts, thanks.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Looking at his curve, he's got a Force Spike, a Strangleroot Geist, and a Wall of Blossoms. He's not doing a whole lot in the early stages. We also see that he has a Vidalcan Shackles in his pile, which is going to lend him to want to get more islands. Farseek can get an island for him. It's a safe pick.
If you're not following along on Cover It Live, you really should be, because you'll get all the tweets from all the players. You'll get great content from the actual room itself, seeing how players are drafting, and get a real sense of the fun and general silliness that is the Community Cup, because it started as it's meaning to go on. Flinthoof Boar here, Blastoderm, Dreg Mangler again if you want to keep towards the black end. Coming out of RTR, Bitter Blossom, very, very famous card from Fairy's time. Consuming
I see
Vapors
Power
there.
Sink here. I don't believe that was in the previous version of the cube. That's an interesting addition. A reasonable morph card with Willbender as well.
So let's see where he heads. He's almost out of time, and he takes the Power Sink. So
It looks like he's going to have enough mana to make that work. All right, so he's instantly seen the Tradewind Rider here. There's also, though, a Palancron, which is quite powerful.
Palancron used to go very, very late in cube.
Yes.
Like, basically the last card.
Now, people have figured out that there's a few combos that you can do with Palancron, and the fact that it's, air quotes, free once you get to that point, definitely lends itself to being picked a little more often. But it looks like he's just going to play it safe and take the Underground Sea. At this point, he can splash black very, very easily, although all he has is a Zombie Cutthroat for it, which is, who cares?
In some sense, not black.
That's also true, yeah. So, I don't know if he's got his eye on something, but we'll see. I don't think this is a Brain Freeze deck, but he sees an Electrolyze. There's a Yavimaya Hollow, which is actually reasonable in his deck. And there's also a Sphinx of Dwar Isle, which is sweet.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in general, the cards that you see that are exciting in regular draft, like if you see a Sphinx of Dwar Isle, you're like, well, that's clearly a finisher. Is that still true in cube, or is it just so powerful and so comprehensively the best cards of all time that actually a mere, air quotes again, finishing fly is just not really sufficient?
That's really funny. I think that's a really, really good question, because that was one that I had when I first came in. Wow, so the Eternal Witness has come back. I don't think he wants a tandem lookout. I think he's just going to take the Witness here.
You're not interested in Fire Spout? as a sweeper?
Ooh, actually, yeah, no, that is definitely possible. I think Eternal Witness in a pod deck is what you want.
Yeah,
there
sure.
he goes. So it's interesting because when I saw Sphinx of Dwarel in the cube, I actually thought that it wouldn't be good enough. I thought it's just a little too. It's very good.
It's just very.
It
It's a
turns
sealed
out-
bomb.
Yes,
if you like.
it is, but it's actually just very good in the cube as well. The main reasoning being that if you build a deck properly, it doesn't really matter what that last thing is, as long as it's tough to deal with,
Sure.
and that guy is really tough to deal with.
Fine.
That's why I like Moloku a lot as well.
More counterspell action here, if so desired, in terms of dissipate. You've got a little curse catcher there. More possibilities in the toolbox, if you will, within
Yeah,
Rick's Stomp Howler.
I think it's the Stomp Howler or the Curse Catcher. Again, thinking in terms of Birthing Pod, you want to have creatures that act as spells, and both of those do.
As we head down this last few picks, just to give you a heads up, if you're watching the refresh rate on your screen, don't worry. We're using a sort of multiple system here, and we're covering the draft slightly differently to the matches. The matches are going to be inside the new beta client for Magic Online. So if you're seeing the cards kind of refresh their way down your screen, it's not your settings on your monitor at home. It's just the way we're able to bring you the draft, and we thought we'd much rather bring you the draft live than just tell you about it later. So we'll be into game action shortly as he looks towards Memory Jar. A card I neglected to play in Sealed because I thought it was banned. It was banned, but not in Constructed. But to be fair, it had a happy ending. I just had it on the table there for every round, and I said, after game one, when I've beaten you without it, I'm going to beat you with it.
Jeez,
And I qualified
just the rubbing?
and I qualified for the Pro Tour at that PTQ
Oh, wow.
with Memory Jar on my sideboard throughout the Swiss. Yes.
Look at you,
Yeah.
showing off a little.
Mm.
All right, so
Dreg Mangler.
Dreg Mangler, and
Ah,
hey,
shocker.
just as you predicted,
It's
very
like I've
last pick,
drafted
Palancron.
before.
All right, we're going to take a
There's
look.
the room. So
at
you've
the
got Tom
room.
LaPalli over the far side there under the Azorius banner. He's for Watsy. Next to Max McCall. In between them, the former rules manager, Mr. Mark Gottlieb. I didn't know they were allowed help as well. That's disgraceful. Nate Price is nearest us. If you think he's a double for Justin Verlander, just wait until 6 p.m. Eastern and you'll see whether he is, in fact, pitching Game 1 of the World Series later today. As Conley races around to talk to John Laux. And again, you can just see John Hickey on the right-hand side of your screen. He's part of the Watsy team. And we are in
All right.
to the first pick for who? Where are we?
We are at John Laux of Limited Resources
For the
here.
community.
And let's take a look at his deck as quickly as we can. It looks like he's blue-black, potentially Reanimator. Yes, I see an Entomb.
Yeah, he's got...
I see a Makeshift Mannequin.
Yeah, you also see some Asperia, some Acroma, Angel of Wrath.
So it looks
Inferno
like he
Titan.
is in a position where he's got a Reanimator deck and 2 reanimation spells, I believe. Recurring Nightmare and Makeshift Mannequin are the only 2 I see.
Okay.
So he's looking to pick up one of those. He's got some kind of random equipment. I see he's got Bitter Blossom with Skull Clamp. I mean, for those of us that like to draw 100 cards in a row, that'll do just fine.
Okay.
All right, now it looks like he's taken the Force of Will here, and he's looking at Chromox Frantic Search.
Okay.
What else? There's not a whole lot for him here, I don't think.
Mean, Stupid's not super exciting in, well, anything.
Yeah, now he's clicked the Frantic Search, which makes sense because that gets things into your graveyard, which is good for a Reanimator deck, especially when if you're going to play cards like Inferno Titan, where it looks like he can't actually cast Inferno Titan or Acroma or Asperia. So he's going to need ways to get rid of it. The downside, of course, is that you're down a card with Frantic Search.
Yeah.
So he's already got a Psychotog. That can do it. All right, we see John moving some cards over to his sideboard. Now, for those of you that haven't had a chance to check out the new beta client, this is my favorite new feature of it.
It is pretty ace.
Isn't it sweet? Yeah.
And
so
the best thing about it is not right now. The best thing about it comes in about 8 minutes from now.
That is correct.
Where you go to deck build, and what happens then?
So nothing, which is a beautiful thing. All of your stuff stays in the sideboard, and all you have to do is add lands to the deck that you've been constructing as you've been drafting and hit the submit button. Love that.
John looking between Phantasmal Image and Mana Leak here.
Yeah, now we see a Basalt Monolith in the pack. Doesn't look like John's deck really wants it, although I don't think it would hate it, to be honest. But
how often is Mana Leak a hard counter in Cube?
Very often.
Yeah. pretty
Yeah,
much.
there's
It's
a
all
couple
pretty-
decks that can work around it, but even those ones are ramping all the way up to something huge, and then when they cast that, you can mana leak it. So,
Okay.
but Phantasmal Image is one of the better creatures running around. Remember, you mentioned this earlier, Rich. It's a compilation of the best cards from Magic's history. Well, a
Yeah.
lot of those are creatures, and you'd probably like to have one of those.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of legendary creatures that are very good in Cube, and being able to pay only 2 mana in blue, mind you, and doesn't care if it has Shroud, you know, anything like that, to kill it is really nice to have in your deck.
Indeed. So he settled on the Phantasmal Image rather than the near hard counter of Mana Leak. And he has
Whoa.
a row of blue coming his way. He has Forbid, one half of the Forbidian combo with Ophidian. Forbidden Alchemy, of course, a recent addition to Magic. Gifts Ungiven, and Kira Great Glass Spinner.
Yeah, now, and then also continuing down the line,
Yeah.
we see Liliana of the Dark Realms, which isn't really great in this deck, I don't think. But there's also a Puppeteer Click, which does a lot more work than it looks like it would in Cube, especially if you can have some discard or some removal, which John has some of. And there's also a Skin Render. Now, he initially clicked the Sundering Titan, which is the most powerful card in the pack, and it's a good reanimation target because it actually stays in the graveyard.
Yeah.
He switched over to the Skin Render, it looks like, because, and I know John, he's scared that he's going to get run over by some aggressive deck. So he wants to have the ability to slow them down, and Skin Render does an amazing job of that.
It really, really does.
I think he feels like he's got enough fatties. You know, he's got the Consecrated Sphinx, the Frost Titan, the Inferno Titan, the Asperia, and I don't think he feels like he needs more. Wow. Have we ever seen anybody click a card that quickly?
Gabriel Nassif's best friend, Brewmate Dragon, sitting there from Pro Tour Kyoto 2009.
And John, I don't think has even looked at that.
No,
he just
of
went
course
instantly for Ancestral Vision. I personally think that it's close between Ancestral Vision and Inquisition of Kozilek. I think that Inquisition is exactly what this type of deck wants.
Question from tweeting via Cover It Live, NerdPop140 asks, if you're Reanimator-esque, wouldn't you go with Gifts Ungiven?
That is absolutely possible as well. It's a totally reasonable question, but John, I think, feels like he has that taken care of.
Sure.
Yeah, meaning that, you know, he has the discard and he has the big guys and he's going to be able to get things in his yard, so he doesn't need to mess around with that.
So, an honest-to-God counter target spell.
How excited are you about this?
I'm pretty...
Are you properly
I'm pretty
excited?
welled up, actually.
I'll hold you after the stream's over.
Though to be fair, the real counter spell's the one with the guy with the beard and the 2 fingers sort of coming out of the screen at you, and the yellow
things that are kind of flopping.
Yeah, that's the one I know.
I like this art a lot, though.
Yeah.
That's Jace.
It's very, very pretty.
He's sort of flippantly countering the spell too.
Yeah.
He's just like, put out this fire with my hand. Now John did look at the Drowned Catacomb because he doesn't have any actual fixing, but he's also straight 2 colors, and I don't think he's that worried about it. Or is he? He goes back to the Drowned Catacomb at the very last second.
Yeah, you're not countering anything with that, John. Show and Tell,
Wow.
a scourge of many a powerful format.
Jeez, look at this pack for John. Every single card but one can go in his deck.
Yeah.
Every card but Goblin Trenches goes right into his deck. Now, it looks like he has been a little bit worried about the mana fixing. He's going to go for a Creeping Tar Pit, one of my favorite lands.
Yeah.
There's good stuff here, though. His deck does not look like a Show and Tell deck. And also, if you're not the Show and Tell deck, that means they might be, and you might be casting a spell that lets them get Grizzlebrand or something insane in.
So the first time around, Goblin Trenches didn't have tokens in packs, so you had to basically bring your own if you were playing Goblin Trenches.
Okay.
So we used to write out Goblin Trenches on alternate plains and mountains. So you'd go, give me a go, give me a blur, give me an in. And you'd gradually assemble Goblin Trenches across the board. No one ever let me get as far as Goblin Trenches. They'd always scoop first.
All right, now John again has opened a pack with just tons of stuff for him. Really solid stuff with Steel Moon Cavalier, Tragic Slip, and Compulsive Research. Laquatus' Champion and Throat Slitter, less so. He instantly went for the Compulsive Research, and I would have as well. This works so well in his deck because it's likely going to net him cards as well as stock his graveyard for reanimation.
Yep, Compulsive Research, and now there's a Pact of Negation, a Stifle.
And he's going to go right for Imperial Seal. I don't blame him a bit. Have you read that card?
I've never seen that card, and by
Yeah.
which I mean
It's
in
from Portal.
in the real world.
Yeah.
I've never like handled an Imperial Seal before.
I have seen one. It was
Okay.
in a dealer case at a Grand Prix.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, so it says search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it, and you lose 2 life. It only costs a solitary black mana. You can get any cards you want. In a Reanimator deck, often you'll find yourself with one piece of the puzzle but not the other, and this just will get you whichever one you need. All right, now, we had a run of cards for John out of those last 2 packs where he had just a lot of choices to make. But now this one's pretty straightforward. There's really only one card that he's looking at, although, I don't know, Brine Elemental's potentially something to consider. But John's going to go for the Chrome Mox here.
Andrew Lawley, we will pass on your message to our tech wizard, Rashad Miller. An overlay showing who we're watching draft would be nice. Is this our only draft of the weekend? No, we have multi-ball coming tomorrow.
So
We'll see what we can do, Andrew.
So, Rich, you
Mana Leak.
you mentioned the potentially hard counter
Yeah.
ability of a Mana Leak. Now, we saw John pass on an actual hard counter with Counterspell earlier, but he's
Yes.
pretty happy to get this Mana Leak back.
Indeed.
Although, jeez.
Thank you.
So I guess he's in the right colors. You know, when you're in your last pack and you see the last 4 picks is this, you are very happy. I actually like Forbid here. It can give you a long game plan that is pretty tough to beat, but all of these cards go great in his deck, honestly. Did he just let it random pick for him?
No, he took the Forbid.
Oh, he did take the
yeah,
Forbid.
he has Forbid.
All right. He's going to take either Is It Charm or Broodmate Dragon, just the one he doesn't want to see.
Yeah, quite. And then
You definitely take the Void here. Obliterate's really hard to cast.
he's not going to play it, so
He won't play
he
it.
will not be a Void wielder.
No. Wow, and he got an Underground River last, too.
Oh my God! Producer Greg Collins dying in a corner at that one. Okay, so that was John Loucks. There we go, boys and girls. So let's stick here just for a minute, and we'll start seeing what John is going to do, because now the players, as you see, we mentioned it earlier in the new client, deck building starts how you finished at the end of the draft. So he's
Love
already
this.
got these 31 cards over there. Now, obviously, that's too many.
Well, so he's moved the lands
yeah,
out,
get rid of them.
and he's sitting at 27 playables currently.
Now, what is this format like, Marshall, in terms of land? Obviously, it can vary wildly depending on whether you're like the trying to do the super aggressive thing or whatever. But is John looking at 17, 18 here? What do you reckon?
I would think that John's going to play 17 lands. The Chrome Mox does change things a little bit, so he could dip, but I don't think he's going to. His deck seems to have a pretty robust curve here. You know, he's got 4 drops currently, plus 2 6-drops. It looks pretty standard issue to me. We see him cut the Entomb. He might just be saying, you know what, my deck is just a blue-black control deck,
Yeah.
and I don't need to fuss around with anything else. You can play Recurring Nightmare for value. You can play Makeshift Mannequin for value. Right now, though, one feature of John's deck that we might want to look at that's really relevant, and I think it's something John's going to be talking about here, is that if you look at his creature count, it's a little low.
A big 6.
It's 6. Now, that's not generally an issue. Remember, the Bitter Blossom kind of acts as a creature as well, and in some ways, the Recurring Nightmare and the Makeshift Mannequin are similar to creatures too. That being said, he's a little low there, and he's going to need to make sure that all of his other spells are going to keep him alive long enough just to get up to that 6 mana threshold. So let's take a look at what he's pulled in 3 lands and a Chrome Mox.
I'm just going to say, why don't we leave John to it and head out to see what some of the other players have been doing. I've got the pairings for round 1, so I can tell everyone at home, hi everybody, welcome back. Give you a little plan in there while Marshall goes and scouts out some other people who are building their decks. So the pairings for round 1 go like this. All the Community Cup players begin their handles with CC, and that's how Sue sees it, apparently. CC _ Bubba 0077, so that's Walter Kaczynski. He's up against John Hickey. John Hickey from the Wizards team. He's our social media and community manager. That's what he's doing. I said our there. It's not that I'm neutral or anything. Conley Woods is up against Billy Moreno. Now that, honestly, could be a Pro Tour final.
And that is also just two wild brewers going at it there. I mean, those guys, you know, I've drafted with Billy a few times in Cube, and he's nuts.
Who have you got here?
So this is Conley. I wanted to revisit Conley.
Okay, let's take a look.
And just take a look at what he ended up with. So let's see. We see Welder.
He's not playing the Putrid Imp.
Yeah, didn't make the cut. Still sitting in the board. Although look at what he did get in the 2-drop slot right in the middle. He's got the channel we talked about. Remember we said if that fell into Conley's hands, how things could get very ugly for his opponent?
I
well,
do remember that.
That exact thing has happened here. And he also ended up with the Sundering Titan that John passed. It looks like he was sitting right next to John, because these are cards that we saw John looking at. Now, he's got a couple of perhaps less good cards for his deck. There's an Orin Viper in there. No, it's not a bad card per se, but certainly unexciting. It looks like he might be engaging a bit of greed here and going for the show and tell.
Yeah, he must have been very close to John, because we're looking at things like the Woodfall Primus that we saw go past John. The Rude Awakening is there. The Fire Spout that we talked about, John possibly taking. Disc was only there quite late, so presumably
also Basalt Monolith.
Yeah.
Which was a big
channel,
one.
Of course.
And the channel, yeah. So the key cards that we see that Conley's picked up here are the Basalt Monolith, the Worn Power Stone, the channel, and that's going to allow him to do... Oh, he picked up the other Wildfire as well. You see that? So
just pop that up for us.
Yeah.
Again, Conley is running his own screen. We're not doing that right now. Once we're in game, we'll be able to move about the screen and show you cards as we go along. Let's leave Marshall having another look at who else is around. I'll tell you some more players, matches. We've got Jackie Lee. She's CC_Jackie L33. She's up against Watsy Shay H. Now, Shay H is Shay Hall. He's from the Orc team. So, you know, when you've got little problems within Magic Online, they're the people who really help out, especially with the newer players. And you know what it's like. You go on there and it's like, so how do I get into a draft? And where is my sideboard gone? And how do I replay games? There's so many things to get on top of, and the Orcs do a great job with that. So Shay's involved on that side. James from Loading Ready Run, that's James LRR, is up against Jason Radibor. Jason Radibor is a software designer, developer, I guess is the technical term, on Magic Online. So if ever there's a bug, it's him. It's his fault. So, you know, look forward to seeing him go down in a pile of bugs, potentially. That would be fitting. John Laux is going to be... Now, he has drawn a tough one. No lie. He is up against Worth Walpert, the executive producer for Magic. Hope you got a chance to see Worth on the show at the
For
Pro
Magic
Tour.
Online.
Yeah, just Magic,
he's
period.
The guy.
He does duels, he does Magic Online, he does some other top secret projects that we're not allowed to talk about this weekend, quote, as he said to me. I think that's actually on his business card. It's like duels, Magic Online, top secret projects we're not allowed to talk about this weekend. That's on his card. Smitty is up against Tom Lapelli, who designed the original Watsy Cube. With Max McCall, was involved in that with Max McCall. And looks like you've got another one for us, Marshall.
Actually, I am looking at something else. I want to see what... So I actually want to see what Worth is.
Okay,
playing,
so he's taken away. Heath Newton from Pure MTGO Traders. He is up against Chris Kiritz, the business manager for Magic the Gathering Online. And that leaves Neil Talbot, who's just this tremendously entertaining and vivacious Australian. Wrong Way, Go Back, his handle. He's up against Max McCall, who did in fact put together the original.
You're going to want to see this one.
Okay, what have we got here?
I don't know.
Wow, that's a bright screen.
I don't know what we have.
Whose theme was that?
I see a Necropotence in the middle. We'll just start right there. Yeah. Abrupt Decay. Let's see. So he picked up a Corrupt to go with his Necropotence, so that's a good start. He's also got, though, a Graveborn Muse. Uh-oh, it looks like he's shrunk his screen here, so it's a little hard to see.
Okay. But we got a little semblance.
We definitely have an idea. He's black, white, kill all your stuff, and then draw cards with broken card draw engines. And fittingly, he has the card Attrition in his deck.
Right.
Because it looks like that's what he's going to be trying to do.
We're going to see Eric Lauer in action from the Wizards of the Coast team, and he's someone who largely built his reputation on the back of helping build the Necropotence deck.
Yes.
That, if memory serves, did Randy Bueller any amount of good news. I mean, Eric Ladger's a part of that CMU, Carnegie Mellon University team. Big New York Giants fan, always wears you see him around the office, always in the cap.
Always see that cap on.
Yeah, and he's very much part of the Inside R&D videos. Hope you got a chance to look at all those from Return to Ravnica. We were in the building, got to talk to all the designers, all the developers, putting that set together. And what a fun set it is.
Indeed.
Kind of good. So
this is going to be an interesting one. I see that he has Cabal Coffers and Urborg to help along his mana base as well.
That's our official combo machine, just off stage to our right, also known as Rashad Miller. Simon Gertson has a question.
What does he say?
Did Conley get the last pick obliterate? And 2, is he playing it? You want 2 questions, Simon? Deary me.
Right.
Oh, dear.
I'm going to find that out.
Okay. Incidentally, if you want to know exactly what's in the cube, Nate has just posted on Cover It Live the Magic Online cube with some changes. So, for example, Absorb, one of my favorite cards of all time, has warped into Isperia, the Supreme Judge. I can see how she could become one of my favorite cards ever. Things like Creekwood Liege becomes Jared Golgari Liege Lord kind of thing. Spiritmonger has become Vraska the Unseen. And so basically you're seeing what cards have come in. Dreg Mangler's in for Grimgrin Corpseborn, for example. Cruel Ultimatum and Rakdos Cackler, those are not similar cards.
No, they are not. It's very tough to go turn 1 Cackler, turn 7 Cruel, although you could do it.
Yes. I'm sure Patrick Chapin is right now beginning a shell of a deck that does precisely that. What if I could do both? Abrupt Decays replace Putrefy.
I have an answer to Zemon's to the first of Zemon's question, which is that yes, he did get the last pick obliterate.
Okay, but the second question.
What was the other question?
Did he play it? Is he running it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we could find out while we watch. By the way, as you see on the bottom right of our screen, you're seeing the Community Cup members. That's their Twitter handles. Jackie L33 just going by there. James Turner, James_LRR from Loading Ready Run. You're a good friend of James. I know that he hangs out with you a bit, and from Vancouver.
He's in Victoria, BC.
Victoria, BC. Okay. So just for those of us who don't know, tell us a bit about Loading Ready Run and what their interaction with Magic is.
So Loading Ready Run is a sketch comedy group. Now, what that means is they do short comedy videos, and usually on the internet. Now, they have a couple. So they have a website, loadingreadyrun.com. You can see their videos there. But they also have a few regular videos that will go up on things like Penny Arcade. They have their video part of the Penny Arcade site, and they do a couple of regular videos there. And they also do Friday nights for Daily MTG, which are Magic-focused comedy sketch videos, and they're hilarious. They also are involved in the Magic community in the sense that they do draft videos for MTGOacademy.com.
Right. Okay.
But they have a twist. They're for entertainment purposes. They're not instructional, where you're trying to, get better at Magic by watching
This is where
them.
they tortured you by forcing you to take Elixir of Immortality. And,
as my win condition.
As your win oh my good God.
And they made it so that the only thing I could attack with in the deck, Kraken Hatchling. That was the only card I was able to attack with. I had to win the games without attacking.
Yeah.
We made it to the finals.
Yeah, that seems fair. See, I would take Elixir of Immortality and just like playing Elixir of Immortality because I'm that kind of guy. But
I am not that kind of guy,
that is
and they know
true.
that.
Yes, that's why they tortured you.
And they use it against me.
Ah, bless.
Yes, they have also done such things as the hat draft, where every pick that they made, the only criteria by which they were to make the picks was how cool was the hat that the person in it was wearing, or did they have a hat in there at all?
Right. Okay.
Now this was during Innistrad, thankfully, so there was a lot of hats floating around.
So like Loyal Cathar was perfect. Because
that's a very early pick.
Yeah, because it's a good hat, good card.
Very early pick.
The combo.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can we get an overview of what James drafted? I don't know. We're working on it.
We can.
Marshall's. Well, we don't have a producer right now. Rashad Miller's
true.
Just given up in disgust, presumably.
But I will get it ready, just so we know what James is working with here now.
So when it gets to the matches themselves, what we're going to be able to do for you, we're going to start off with Conley against Billy, Conley Woods against Billy Moreno. But as the games go on, we'll be able to take you to other matches as they happen. If something super exciting happens that we missed, Well, we've got game replay queued up so we can watch, the
this is gonna
abject
be sweet.
humiliation
Yeah.
back. So we're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm taking a look at James's deck as he's building it. It looks like he's nearly mono white with a
Okay.
little bit of red. So.
Let's see if Rashad Miller could put that up on the screen for us now that he's coming back. That's, if he's not too busy glad-handing it with the WotC employees who are going past our window.
Did you
Anytime you like, Rashad.
just bump into Turian out there, Rashad? Is that?
That's kind of what happened. He was a bit starstruck. Yeah, if you could just pull up Marshall's monitor for the people at home, that would just be lovely. Thank you so much. We don't ask you to do much, but it would be good if you
professional Rashad Miller.
And there it is, only a minute and a half after we started talking about it. Here it is. So take it away, Marshall.
So this is James _LRR's deck, and it looks okay. So the reason why I have hesitation in my voice is because this is the type of deck that I usually try to avoid running at all costs in the cube. It looks like what you would call a fair deck, meaning that it's casting some good creatures, it has some good spells, and it's looking to win through an aggressive curve. Now, I like that. I mean, look at all his 1-drops, although the bonfire doesn't actually belong there. But, man, I gotta say, I just feel like every time I play against a deck like this, I either go bigger, make a ramp deck that just does stuff that he's playing 2-1s for one that don't do anything.
Yep.
And then you play an 8/8 trample on turn 4, and they're like, well, that isn't really going to get it done. Or I have a deck, maybe like John's. We saw John Laux's deck. It's a blue-black control list, and I don't think it's going to have any problem with a creature-based deck like this. But that being said, these decks are very consistent, and if you're playing against somebody who perhaps hasn't played a whole lot of cube before, these type of decks can punish them for being too greedy or too ambitious with what they're trying to do, where you very consistently cast 1, 2, 3-drop creatures, beat them down, back it up with some burn or some type of reach, and you can get them.
Okay. Now, the fact that your screen just changed there suggests to me that we may not be far away from showtime. So if you'd like to pull up Conley over there on your monitor, Marshall. I can do that.
I also have an update.
Okay.
From Lee Sharp, who is running the technical side. So the matches have started, but they're going to have them concede, and then they're going to repair, because Magic Online will automatically pair the players.
Sure. Okay.
But since we're doing it a little bit different, we have
because
the wizards, if you will, over there who can push some buttons behind the scenes and get the pairings properly done for the Community Cup.
Yeah, because obviously what we can't have is community players playing against other community players. We have to force it to be
right, because if you do that, then you would have all the good players playing against each other.
That's right.
The community players.
WotC, which is obviously what
so
you
we weren't on the same page?
We were pretty much on the reverse of the same page.
So it is the same page?
Technically.
Okay.
Just more like I was page 1